What should we do? Well, Tryon says the old energy does not want you to escape. The old energy doesn't want you to cross the bridge because it can't get across the bridge to the new world. And I'm about 3 slides to the end here. This is one of the most important set of things that I've ever run across. This is John Cotter, who 25 years ago wrote an HBR in the Harvard Business Review. He said, here are the 8 steps to transforming an organization, or I suggest the world. And these are so, so powerful. I gave a copy of this slide to Braden last night. He just sat there and looked at it and he said, wow. He said, can I keep this? Yes, you can keep it. First of all, you have to establish a sense of urgency. Now, each one of these things has to happen sequentially, and you cannot get to the next one without doing the previous one, all right? Or the whole thing falls apart. So first you got a sense of, so let's talk about a business, if it were. I mean, we can raise it up and talk about the world. But if it's a business, and the CEO decides we're going to go in any direction, what does he do? He calls in the senior leadership and he says, if you don't come with me, you're going somewhere else, because this is where we're going. And you suddenly get a sense of urgency. And you suddenly say, listen, you know, I got a choice here, and I think I'm going with this guy. But anyway, and if you make that really kind of clear, now it could in the world, it could be an environmental thing, it could be climate change, it could be any number of other kind of things. But in any case, there has to be a sense of urgency. Why? Because if you're not urgent about it, then why do it? I mean, kind of keep going. I mean, right? Makes sense. And then you've got to build a powerful guiding coalition. You've got to get, and you know, a number of people, and that they're power, and they're guiding, and they're coherent, and you get a coherent message in this thing. And then you create a vision, and you say, let me show you where we're going and what it looks like. Because once you can get it in the eye, in your own mind's eye, then consciousness is causal, right? You can manifest yourself, whether you want to think of it in those terms or not, but you manifest yourself into that space. You create a vision of what that new thing is going to look like. And you proliferate it all over the organization. You communicate that vision everywhere, so there's no ambiguity. Everybody understands. And then you empower people to move on that vision. You don't just say, hey, let me know what you want to do, and I'll let you know if it's okay. No, 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 no. You empower people at the lowest levels, and you say, you run, you go do this. And if it blows up, let me know. You know, it's something like that. And then you plan for, you manipulate this. You manipulate this thing. You plan for and you create short-term wins. You make sure that in that first week something cool happens, and you can fire that around the organization, and you can say, look, we're making it. And then something else happens in the second week, and something else happens in the third week, and it gets momentum, and people say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you consolidate all of those kinds of things, and then you produce more change, and then you institutionalize. And then you say, this is who we are. That way, and you build it, and now you've gotten to the new place. That thing, that works anywhere, for anything. I mean, whether it's you're trying to jack yourself into a new space, you know, you can just almost make it a personal kind of thing. Extraordinarily powerful. Well, if you want to really get weird, I got to have at least one weird slide in here. Here's Sheldon Neidl. And Sheldon Neidl has made a career out of talking to aliens, right? He can tell you all about how the aliens talk, and the 6, 9, 8 different versions of aliens, and all of this kind of stuff. And I don't know. But he said something very interesting a couple years ago. He said, the aliens say, our goal is to maintain a degree of normalcy in your societies and make it look like not much is changing, and it's intended to be a temporary facade. In reality, much has changed, but it's and it's real, and it's about to flip. And you can almost believe that that's going on, because you see all the crap on the news and how horrible it is, and you never get the coherent kind of picture of the good things that are going on underneath the radar, and you say, well, what are they trying to do, and how does this work? And maybe if you were if it was your job to manage the thing, you'd say, no, I'm not going to bang them, I'm going to kind of just push them along. This is being done for your sake of stability. Excuse me, because in the 1990s we found out you couldn't handle big surprise events. One presumes that they're talking about, I don't know what they're talking about in the 1990s. But you know what? Cryon says the same thing. Cryon says, no, the economic system isn't going to fail. I mean, that'd be fundamentally counterproductive. I mean, you're really trying to make progress. We need to go up there. If the economy failed, it'd drive fear into the whole system, and everybody would get scared, and that'd be counterproductive. No. You're going to have enough transition that you can adjust and adapt to the thing, and to get where we're going. Makes sense? So the aliens and Cryon are both on the same page, right? And then we reach the launch point. The grand change is on the near horizon, and it'll bloom naturally and organically. Could be. If you think it's intelligent and it's loving and benign, and we're going and there's a plan, and could be. There's no test in front of us, Cryon says. So you pass the test. Now it's just, how do you get from here to there? Cryon says you can change anything. And I mean anything. Anything. You just change your mind. You get your mind, your mental state, your vibrations up, and you get into a space, and that's part of this kind of new human thing and how we do this. And you can tell. It's real easy to tell whether you're making it in this. Because if you're depressed, you're living in the past, and if you're anxious and you're fearful, then you're worried about the future. If you're peaceful, you're living now. And that's the only thing there is, by the way. There is no future in any kind of terms. It's funny for a futurist to say that, but anyway, there is. It's deep, it's sophisticated, it's complicated. So what are we supposed to do? Cryon says, just be, old soul. Go to work and show the light. Show that you have compassion. Go home to your family. Perhaps doesn't believe this, and don't judge them. Instead, show your compassion, because you have a piece of God. Remember, it's impossible to know what's really going on at any level, because this is just way too complicated. So maybe one way to make sense out of this thing, and what you got to do is transcend. You got to get yourself, and you got to know that everything is okay. And how would you say that? Maybe you could say it like this. Use the force, Luke. Let go, Luke.
The force is strong in this way.
Luke, trust me. So, use the force. That's what. So if you're interested in our newsletter, let me know. If you're not on the list, get on it. But thank you all very much for This government is all based on some guy getting on a horse and riding it to Washington to represent you, because you can't get there and it's too far away, you know? And we don't need the horses anymore. We can just do it. And they're still trying to fight that. You know, it's entrenched, it's established, it's got all of its advocates. But it'll change. It'll change. It'll have to change, because it's increasingly becoming ineffective. It's
you could have a representative sit in his office in your locality.
Well, why do I need a representative? If I could find an effective way to stick in front of myself the issues that I'm interested in. I mean, what if you voted on the budget? What if you had to get a public vote on the budget of every government agency, and they had to have and the American people had to have confidence in the agency and what they were doing, and so they had to be transparent. And they used to have to pitch and say, "This is what I'm doing and what I'm doing," and they got to sit there and really be responsive, because if they aren't, they're going to get the budget cut next time. If you disintermediate the system and take the representatives and stuff out, I mean, there's some really nice kind of theoretical models of how you could do something like that. That could be kind of cool. If you believe there's some order and direction to all this, then the guys who are, making the shots and making the decisions have got a different kind of perspective on this. I mean, I tell a story about walking down the street in Zagreb one day with a Dutch friend of mine, and this is back when little George Bush was the president, and I was pitching and moaning about what a jerk George Bush was, and this guy said, "Well, maybe he's the shortcut." And I said, "What? What does that mean?" He said, "Well, maybe he's the shortcut." I said, "Well, what does it mean?" "Well, he said he could be the shortcut." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, maybe he is the force that is so extreme on one side that it drives the system back into the middle, and he is the shortcut that gets it back." And that's in fact why Barack Obama got elected, because it was a reaction to George Bush. Hasn't done much good, but then you can start to say, so now what's that about? Maybe it's to start to tell you that no politicians don't put your hope into politicians, and so maybe there's a systematic kind of attempt to just show you that the present system, the way it's is in place, isn't going to happen and isn't going to work. I mean, I'm encouraged. Again, the problem is that you've got no coherent way in which to track the good news. But I'm encouraged by different countries and other kind of things that are moving against GMOs and Monsanto. And so it doesn't happen all overnight. So I don't know. Oh, it's AI. It's sheep. Elon Musk is talking about AI. You know who Elon Musk is? Yeah, who's Tesla and SpaceX. And Elon Musk is scared to death of artificial intelligence because it's so strong, AI, because it's so powerful. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to the day that you have an agent. You have a computer agent that functions like a human being, makes decisions, talks to people, collects information, collaborates, does all those kinds of things. And the day that starts to happen, then man, everything really changes, because then you can pile them all on top of each other. You can take 10,000 of these guys and say, go solve that problem. And suddenly, all these things for all time memorial that have been opaque and intractable, suddenly you get breakthroughs and you start to understand things, and it just goes like crazy. And the problem, of course, is the old guys want to weaponize it, of course. And so somewhere in this, there's a very interesting play in here about how you move new technology into this new space without it being captured by the old guys, because they want to weaponize it and dominate and use it to dominate things. And I've spent a good bit of time thinking about how you might do that, and have some plans for that kind of thing. But the stuff is coming, and it's inevitable. It just really is. And we've just got to be really smart and trust the force, and trust that if our hearts are in the right place and we're doing the right things, that we're going to get there. And it isn't about knocking things down because you can't understand it, and because I have real problems about all the fear that's generated about some of these new technologies, because people can't make sense out of them, and all they can do is build all the negative scenarios. There's a lot of hope in this system, but part of what you got to do is, like I've suggested a couple of times, is somehow get it together so that you can see it in a kind of a critical mass and start to say, yeah, there's really something there. Every day I said to my son when he was growing up, I said, do what's right and do your best. And I don't know anything I mean, if you always do what you think is right, how can you do any better than that? I mean, it's all you know. And if you do it the best way you can, then that's all I know. I mean, it's just now. It's this living in the present kind of thing. So it's just right now, what? That God is love. And I believe absolutely, literally, that is the case. That the field out of which we all operate, the enabling field that produces us all, that is generated by whatever a creator type of thing is, or was, or whatever, is love. And if you can operate in that space and find that guy, that's